Hey, everybody, welcome to the Sex Actually podcast. Your host, Dave Neal, with Tasha, Courtney.
Hello.
Ayla Venezuela.
I like that.
Anna Valenzuela. I think I got it the first time, and then I fucked up. Anna Valenzuela.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
This is our big high-profile guest we have here today.
Oh.
From Comedy Central's The Roast Battle.
The Roast Battle. Season 2.
Celebrity here. How are you?
I'm well. I just came from the boyfriend's house, and I'm just living my life, doing my thing.
He's sick, so you're nursing him. Women love when their boyfriends are sick.
No.
It's a way
Nobody
of...
likes that.
Yeah,
because boys are way whinier than, like, seriously, it
Yeah.
would be easier to take care of, like, a 2-year-old child than it would to be taken care of a grown man.
Well, but then women, you feel like you have a purpose when you're like, oh, can I get you some ginger ale or something? I don't know. I haven't been sick. The only time I got sick, Tasha she wouldn't get out of bed. She was like, are you okay? And
I feel like everyone I've worked with this week is sick, and I'm just, like, holding my breath at every job and trying not to touch anything.
LA has had a cold
sick.
for 2.5 months.
Gross.
I don't buy it. Even when I am sick, I just don't admit to it. I don't want to feel sick. I just want to get over it. It takes a while.
Mind over matter.
Yeah, it takes a while for me to be like, all right, I'm fucked up. Like, to really... You know what I mean?
How many? I work in a women's sober living is my day job, and so I'm around people with no immune system, and they are sick constantly. So
it's like working with kindergartners.
I've had all the colds.
Now so before we got into the podcast, we were talking quickly about which 12-step program we had done, and you had. What's so funny is that I mentioned I had gone to Codependence Anonymous, and you immediately just shamed me.
You were like, I wasn't shaming you. I was just. Here's the thing. I have a friend who worked the steps in one 12-step program, like an AANA sort of 12-step program, and then she was 15 when she did that, and then she turned around and worked the steps in Coda. And talking to her is like talking to a 2-ton gorilla. She has ironclad boundaries. She'll judo flip anybody at any time, and she just doesn't even mean to do it. She only says what she means to say, and she won't let anybody ascribe meaning to what she's saying other than the meaning she intends.
Well, that sounds actually like a great way to live your life, and maybe the world would be better off if everybody just said exactly what they meant to say and wouldn't allow anyone to interpret it any differently.
If Tasha would just say what she meant to say, we would solve all of our issues.
Stop it.
I always
say what I mean.
Instead, it's like, all right, I hear what you're saying. What's the mood? What's happening? What are you feeling? I showed up with In-N-Out Burger the other night.
Okay.
Just a peace treaty. We weren't even in a fight. That was just my way of saying, this will buy me 72 hours. Do you guys
fight a lot?
No. I mean, I think it's a lot better. It's a lot better. It's always
we get snappy.
Yeah,
I don't think we really fight much about anything seriously, but we.
Do you and your boyfriend fight?
Well, no, not really, not yet. How long have you guys been together?
We're at 3+.
3 years.
Or just about 3, yeah.
Yeah, me and the dude have been together for like 6 months, so we're not...
Still sort of in that, like, temper your mood phase.
And you're both of similar professions. You both are hilarious and very nice stand-up comedians. I know him more. I don't know you at all, really. I mean, I don't know you at all.
Yeah, we're getting to know each other right now.
And by the way, so this is like episode 205. I know everyone's sex life. Who lives here, right? You like slowly start to. I mean, what people are comfortable sharing, but it's interesting because I always want to get this is my sandbox. If I want to get to know somebody, I'm like, hey, come on the podcast and we'll talk, and it's kind of weird because like we're adults. Yeah, but you need like in our industry
a thing.
This is like if we didn't record it, it didn't happen. We're not friends. But your boyfriend's super sweet, nicest guy.
Tasha the nicest human on planet Earth. If you met him, you'd just be like, oh, that's it. He would feel immediately comfortable and safe.
Who found who?
I started coming around the Comedy Store before I was a comedian, and he was just one of those door guys that was there, just a nice dude, and again felt safe around. Which at the Comedy Store is a rare feeling because it can feel like a place that it feels dangerous. It's fun, but it feels dangerous.
Like everyone's vetted. Like even the door guys and the guys who park the cars, they have to be like passed on talent. Like, you have to be like funny. You have to be like
you have to be extremely funny.
Yeah, it's like a big deal to get those types of jobs. But it's also smart for him because he gets to meet everybody just by having the kind of signage on his shirt. Like, I'm part of this.
I equate it to it's like being part of the Night's Watch or the Kingsguard in Game of Thrones. Like he's part of a club, like an elite club, right?
It is the hottest club, which I hate to admit because I'm not like performing there often. You know what I mean? It's
hard to
but
do.
if I was on the wall, I'd be like, this is the best. But instead I'm like, man, I want to be part of that.
Hi guys, how's it going? It's so I would come around there and he would just sort of he was just always really nice, and then I started doing stand up and he was just around, and he would he's the funniest person in the back of the room at a mic, especially a mic that's not going well. So like, let's say the Improv on a Sunday at 12:45 when all the hope has left the building because they know the booker's gone and now everybody's just sad and tired. And he would just crack little jokes back there.
Yeah.
And one day I just looked at him and I said, hey, you know what? You want to go get pancakes? And there was no sexual intent behind it because I had sort of reached a point in my life where comedy, because when you first start doing stand-up, men, especially male comics, have a lot of opinions about whether or not you should get into a relationship, what kind of person you should get into a relationship with, whether or not you're ever going to have kids depending on your age. I'm in my 30s. They were like, oh, so you're just never going to have these things in your life. And I kind of resigned myself because it is really hard to date.
But major projections going on.
Major projections, but a friend of mine, Keith Carey, who you should totally have on here. He's amazing.
I know, I need to. I haven't. I would love to. I don't really know him that well. He's one of those guys that I'm nervous to even talk to. Because I'm not friends with him. Guys, it's hard for guys to make friends. Like, I've got my clique, and there's certain comics that know everybody. And I'm like, I know them too, but maybe they think I'm an asshole because I don't talk to them. No. Because I don't think of myself as one of the cool guys. I'm just as weird as everyone else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think everybody, comedy is a bunch of weird people who all think that they're the weirdest in the room.
They think they're the one. Yeah.
Because they have been their whole life.
Yeah. For some reason or another, we've always been just a little bit stranger than the group.
I had no idea why I couldn't fit in at a regular job. I just thought that maybe I wasn't meant for indoors, or that I was allergic to cubicles, or whatever. I couldn't figure it out, and started doing comedy, and I was like, oh, this is the thing I should have been doing my whole life. Yeah. This is amazing.
And what drove you to get on stage the first time?
Well,
was friends telling you you're funny, or just inside? I
had a job. I'd worked in drug and alcohol treatment for a really long time, and I had a job where I started parlayed that into working with people with autism, and it was so much fun because it was adults. And speaking of knowing people's sex lives, these were young men that had mostly young men. We had at one point 28 folks, 3 of them were women. And so
why do you think that is?
There's a higher rate in men for diagnosis. So these guys were super sweet, and they were away from home for the first time. So I'd have to knock on the door, make sure they're eating, make sure they're taking their meds, and they're just, jerking off in the middle of the room. I've seen.
You mean you would walk in and they were, or were they trying to at least cover it up?
Some, not all. Some of them would just be like, hey, I'm busy right now. You should have called. And I'd be like, you're naked. Okay, cool. So they're kind of exploring themselves. You can't shame a person for having a sex life because they're allowed. They're living on their own for the first time in their whole life.
But it must be hard because men are supposed to be the ones.
And it's natural.
It's supernatural.
It's natural.
But men are supposed to be the ones who break the ice with girls and this and that, and that's going to be so tough if you're in that sort of state of mind. Where
it's a little harder.
I feel like women can be not good at talking to somebody, but a guy's still going to want to go up to her at a bar. Women, no offense, you guys just have to show up sometimes.
It's true.
And there'll be a guy. I mean, you might not get the quality guy you want, but if you show up to I always tell girls how can I meet the right type of guy? Go to a place that the guys that go to aren't pieces of shit. Don't go to Wall Street happy hour bar and expect to get anything but a rich guy who just wants to fuck. You know what I mean? It's a very specific thing that
Wolf of Wall Street guy.
Yeah.
Barf. Anytime a guy tells me my favorite movie's Wolf of Wall Street or Casino
that
or
means
Goodfellas,
run away.
Yeah, I'm like, take your Scarface poster and get out of here.
I had my buddy Nick. We went to business school together in Rhode Island, and they're all very successful in New York. And he's a really good guy, married. But at the time, he's single, and I've been out with those guys. And at the time, I was living in New York, acting making no money, but I was hanging out with these guys that are probably already making $250,000.
Crazy.
And they just know that they're just gonna dump money on some girl and take her home that night.
Gross.
And that's just, I couldn't physically do that for more than. I couldn't even buy a girl a shot without the next morning being like, oh, I really couldn't afford that drink.
What? Yeah,
so you have to learn how to talk to people like you don't have any other sort of tools,
Right, and I don't drink, so I've been clean and sober for 14 years, and so there's no way to just drop game on me that way. You have to have something to say.
But so do guys get I don't mean turned off, but if that's the guy's strategy, like, let me buy you a drink, and you're like, I don't drink, do guys not know what to do after that?
They usually they'll go to, do you want to smoke pot? No, I don't do that either. And then it turns into, oh, do you just well, okay, and then they have to have a conversation. And it usually turns into a long conversation because I like to have a deep conversation with people, and then they feel locked into a thing, and all the pretty girls are walking by, and I'm watching them sweat because they're realizing it's not going to work. I was once told by Coach T from Roast Battle, he was like, I watch you curb stomp dudes, and you don't even know you're doing it. Because I'm just like, oh, hey, how's it going? I'm just busy being everyone's big sister, and I forget that maybe there's some intent. The other thing is, in a 12-step capacity, I'm used to interacting with men and having them be my peers and not having it be a sexual thing. And so walking into comedy where it's sort of, especially the Comedy Stores, I call that patio the fuck mosh pit, because is from an anthropology perspective, it's fascinating because there's like mating rituals, and the comics have games that they're playing, and some of them will just tell you like, I'm gonna fuck that girl later, and they'll just walk around.
It's just a bunch of ego.
So bizarre.
Like the guys who have something to brag about will talk extra loud. Even the guys who don't have anything to brag about will talk extra loud.
Yeah,
about like they're still bragging in their own little level, and it's like.
Girls in skin-tight cocktail dresses and the whole...
I've been told not to bring Tasha there.
You're too pretty.
And, that's
Thank you.
No, but I was like, look, if some other comic can, like, steal her from me, then that's on me. Like, I'm not worried.
If you went there together, they'd respect it.
Yeah.
They'd respect it. There'd definitely be some guys who are a little like, oh, hey, girl. You know, those swagger kind of guys.
I feel like no one ever talks to me when I'm at these things.
Bullshit.
I'm always sitting by myself.
She was taking photo twice. Mark Norman, I told him about this because he didn't know.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm on stage and he's hitting on her because she's in the back taking photos. And I'm cool with that because he didn't know. And then a show we did in Redondo, this guy was trying to get her number, and I'm like 20 feet away, but I'm like putting the stage away. I like brought like this portable stage. So like he's literally, what did he say to you?
I don't remember. I do remember the guy in the place that you're talking about, but I don't remember what he said.
He tried to get your info. He pretty much asked you to go on a date with him, which I respected. I was like, I'm surprised.
Yeah, because usually it's a little more sly. Especially if you were a comedian, everyone in town would have asked you to write with them. And I'm such a dum-dum. I'd be like, I remember one time somebody asked me that, and I showed up with a notebook and sat down, and I was in sweatpants, just like, yeah, we're writing, bro. That's what we're doing. We're riffing. That's what we're doing.
And he got cologne on. You're like, what are you doing, bro?
What's going on? Why is there a candle?
That's
is
exactly
weird.
let's go right to you. Let's go hit some shows together,
right.
blah, blah, blah. Like, but that's, men use whatever tools they have. If a guy's an artist, he's going to want to sketch you. You know, or if a guy's a photographer, he's going to want to shoot you. Like, we're just, all we want is to be able to use what we have to acquire the girl. That guy had a decent set that night, and he was like, I'm going to hit on this girl. And he asked you out, and you know, that was it. And I think,
though, I had been taking photos. In both of those situations, I had been taking photos. So I had, like, our Canon and the lenses. Right. And I think that his icebreaker was like, oh, would you send me those photos? Here, let me give you my number. Like, you know, like that was the end. Can you send me the pictures that you took?
Not my email. That's when you say, well, give me your email.
Yeah.
So I can send it to your Dropbox.
And I think that's when he was like, oh, I'd take you out sometime. Funny. Which I totally respect, because I always I understand that you need something to break the ice, like something in common, some way you want to hang out that's not just like going to go get coffee or whatever. But I hate so much when people they confuse like work and date. Like, don't ask me to lunch and I'm going to be thinking we're talking about work and you're thinking it's a date. Like,
Let me know what your intentions are.
Be specific
you're both
about
in
what you really
where,
want.
Like, you do take lunches and you do meet people for projects. I'm sure guys that actually have a short film they want to shoot are like, oh my gosh, she'd be perfect for it. And you have to weed out, does he want to fuck me? Does he actually think I'm perfect? Does he want to fuck me, but he'll still cast me and he won't fuck me? Like, those are things that...
That is literally the thought process I've had to have a couple of times. Like, I know that guy wants to fuck me, but I want him to book me on his show. So how do I keep this... How do I keep it like a soft no?
And the worst thing you can do is just like not have the courage to say no, but like lead him on and then... And no one wins. And I'm not saying it's the woman's fault, but like it's like a delicate thing to be.
But when people are not, when nobody's being upfront, that's the situation you find yourself in. Which is why I'm always like, no, let's talk about what we really want here.
Which is pancakes. So you ask him to pancakes.
So here's what happened. So kind of what was going on with me is I had way to bring it back around.
I like that too. Yeah, now, it took me 18 minutes.
You had a successful
I did
podcast,
UCB 401.
Hey. So they basically, I had gotten to a point where, because I was trying to date people, just online apps, civilians and stuff. And it's really hard to say, okay, so my day job is on the weekends. My passion job is
at night.
At night. How do you feel about a sexy lunch date at 2 p.m. because I can't wake up before 11 anymore? How do you feel about that? And that's just really hard to pitch. And a comedian and I'll get back to that story too. A comedian told me I was a comic before I was a comic. And he kind of along the way, he's sort of like the best, worst person in the whole wide world, David Taylor, a little bit of a fairy godfather figure in my life. And he said to me, these are about to be, a lot of people say don't fuck comics, but understand that these are about to be the only men you know. And sure enough, in about 8 months of doing comedy, all the men I knew were comedians. And so here's how I had compartmentalized. I will attempt to date because I want to have a well-rounded life. And then I'll have what I like to call sex idiots. Just like a couple of people I know.
You keep them on rotation.
Keep them on rotation. And then the dating part started to get complicated. So then it just turned into, I'm just going to hang out with interesting people that I know it will go nowhere with. Get pancakes in the middle of the night with my buddies.
And that's what you wanted from your current boyfriend?
That's
an
literally
interesting person that you just assumed...
I assumed he would never be into me because he's younger than I am.
Oh, is he?
I'm in my 30s. He's 26.
He's only 26?
Yes.
That makes me angry.
Doesn't he look like he's going to be perennially like 31?
He's like a young David Letterman. Like when you look at David Letterman,
he looks like young Johnny Carson. For real.
No, you're right. He does.
He really does.
He definitely will have a talk show. There'll be like a million networks at that point.
Have you been to his talk show? It's great.
I haven't been to
so
it.
Good.
Anyway, yeah.
But so that's how that happened. And then speaking of his talk show, a friend of mine who is a huge comedy fan recommended I check it out. And it's so good. It's so good. And he dresses up. He has this whole Johnny Carson vibe.
It's a live show. It's just a live show?
Live show. It's with him, and then his roommate tries to ruin the show. His co-host tries to be his Don Rickles and just ruin the show the whole time.
So you saw that and appreciated his art and all that before.
And we just kept hanging out.
And then it's like, why wouldn't you want to get pancakes with someone who looks like a cool person?
Right.
But this is important for guys to understand. You're saying it from the organic way that women see it, but guys need to understand that they need to be creative in their own way. They need to be not somebody else. Don't be a rock. Don't be play acoustic car.
Don't be putting on some sort of
be whatever. If you love surfing all day long, you'll find a girl who's like obsessed with going to the beach and watching people surf and loves the air. You'll just find whatever it is, but you have to get that yourself for someone like you to be like, oh, I respect that.
Yeah.
Or at least be in that path and on that way and see, and then you'll meet someone there that's kind of like on your wavelength.
Exactly. And then, and I didn't think it was ever going to go anywhere. And so we would go to pancakes and he would drop me off and he would never unbuckle his safety belt. And so I thought to myself, well, that's just, he's not interested, because a guy who wants to smooch you, you can hear it. He'll pull up and is this your car? Pull up, pop.
Or walk you to the door, or make some sort of like.
This has to go.
That's not mine. That's that one.
Can you pull yours away? This is the face. This is for the video. For all listening on audio, the video. No, it's just too close to the camera.
The Starbucks mermaid
I don't think it was
getting facial recognition technology right now.
Sorry to interrupt it. It's annoying me.
No. So she So one day, a friend of mine, my 12-step sponsor, actually was like, you need to address this because this seems like dating. Because I had made a joke to him. He was on the road. I said, send me pictures from when you're on the road because I have never traveled to that part. And he was doing it. I was like, what? She goes, this feels like flirting and dating. Yeah. You should address it.
It's emotional time.
You're
spending time together when you're not together, and that's like, well, you care about each other.
Right.
You're texting. You feel good when he sends you a text randomly.
Yeah. And so he popped that seatbelt one day. And I
but you had said something about it.
I hadn't said anything.
Oh, okay.
I was going to chicken out. I was just going to.
So he's probably got a guy being like, dude, pop the seatbelt. Like, give her a chance. So he probably had his own coaching or a friend.
I hope so. I don't know.
If sometimes the guy just knows.
Maybe it just takes time.
Yeah.
Maybe I think for a lot of people, when a friendship starts to evolve into something more, it can be scary because it's a risk. it might not go well. And then you risk losing the friendship for a relationship. And that can be a little scary. So I think for men and women, it's like you've got to have a talk with yourself. Like, is this worth the risk? Are we going to take
That's why like a guy wants to like white knuckle it and just hold on the steering wheel and be like, good, have a good day. Good to see you. Because he's like scared shitless. Because men, as much as like sometimes we're smooth, sometimes we're like, don't fuck this up, Dave. Don't touch her. Because we've all been, every guy's been rejected when we just for sure thought this is the time. And they're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's better almost a little late than a little early.
Exactly.
But it sounds like it was
perfect
right on
timing.
time.
He said, what did he say? He said, well, I feel like getting to know people should be easy. And it's been really easy to get to know you.
Do you date Barack Obama?
Apparently.
sound like
That's sort of my, oh, wow. I've never gotten into that. That's sort of, let me see if I can do, I usually can do it.
I like to date people.
And
they have to be successful. You're
that's
a pretty gal.
Yeah, so he said that, and then I just blurted out as articulate as anything, are these friend hangs or something else? And then he kissed me, and that was it. That was the super romantic story.
I love that you guys have that moment, and it's not, well, we were drunk, and he fell on me, and we kissed. Like,
yeah.
You have a good was it post pancakes, or was it
post pancakes?
So you had continued the pancake tradition.
Yes. Well, by that time we switched it up to avocado toast or whatever.
Oh yeah, you were like, we can't carbo load. Oh yeah, you said, are you gluten free or is that?
I am, and we'd have to go to Swingers because they have a gluten free pancake
love
there.
Swingers, good food.
Yeah,
I'm a burrito guy at Swingers.
Yeah, there's a lot of good food there, so you can hang out and.
So you're gonna have to like get married at Swingers then.
That's hilarious.
You know that Taco Bell is doing weddings now? I saw this online. For like $600, they take care of everything and you can have your wedding at Taco Bell. I just saw this a few days ago.
Beautifully trashy. That's I love that.
I think they have like a bouquet of hot sauce packets.
Now, so he's from the Bay Area. Where are you from? I don't know where you're
from. I was born in San Luis Obispo and raised in Northern California, and I've been down in LA for the last 10 years. And I actually came down here because I was in love with somebody who was getting his PhD. And that relationship, we were together for 6 years.
Wow, long
time. That's a
20 to
PhD.
26. Yeah.
So you were dating him like before he was even like a PhD student?
Yeah.
Did you meet in college?
Yeah, in college. No, we met in our 12-step program.
Oh, great. That's common, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And he did like, he was just going to school and he's a super smart guy. I have a type, which is super smart robot person. That's what I want. Data from Star Trek so hard. That's that's apparently my thing.
In a wetsuit. You need data in a wetsuit.
Yes.
You get the little thing there. Sounds like this. Great podcast, somebody said. Thanks so much. Hey, I love a good positive affirmation here. So you're okay. So this is interesting. So you move for a guy, knowing it's a long investment. How did that go wrong?
I didn't have my own stuff going on. I wasn't really a person at the time. I was 20. I was newly clean when we got together, and I didn't have my own interests developed. I didn't even have the self-esteem to realize I had dreams to live out. Yeah, and so I was very good at, speaking of codependency, I was very good at pouring myself into sort of the crevices of somebody else's life.
Molding into the thing that you're with.
Yeah.
What they are. So
and
what was
being
he getting
like a supportive beta person.
You must know everything about that PhD program.
Oh, I used to read it's funny, I used to read his papers. I know everything about, he was a microbiologist with an emphasis of virology. I used to go to his lab and donate blood so they can infect it with HIV and cure it.
Virology.
Super smart. Changing the world. Great guy.
No, amazing. But it sounds like I know exactly what you're talking about because like my side gig that I'm getting into, I'm pitching it to her in the shower. I'm like, and this is another thing. And it's like, I just feel so bad because as a partner, you have to absorb the passion or whatever your person's with. But you have a point. You have to have your own thing. So you don't just like invest. It's like I always look at it as two trees. You can't have one being a vine on the other. You're just going to suffocate them.
Exactly.
And if they don't feed you right, you're going to just be dead.
And it's so hard on yourself. That's no way. You have to find a way to dig yourself out of that self-esteem hole because it's just us. It's a cliff. And once you go off, that's it.
Yeah, we have to think of ways where Tasha does modeling predominantly and very successful, and she has to go on trips with modeling people or agencies and do things and go to dinner, and I have to be cool with it. And then sometimes I'll have a show or she'll have a thing, and we travel with each other.
Yeah.
She did something at Coachella, and they're like, "Hey, come, I get your free ticket." Yeah. All right, I'm there. And then so like we're there for each other, but we also understand, or at least need to get good at understanding that like we both have to succeed on our own.
Yes.
And then just share.
But yeah, I relate with you talking about not really having your own interests, because I feel like work takes up so much of my time that I end up in my spare time not having, I have like a couple of things that I like to do, but not any other passions outside of work. So I'm curious how you kind of discovered your own.
Well, I started training in martial arts, and we actually did it together, but I was the one who was, I took to it naturally in that particular type of martial arts. It was very hard contact. He was this like graceful ballerina dancer looking man, just like tall and willowy and all of this stuff. And I am a tank. And so
you kick men to the curb.
Oh yeah. When we broke up, I kept doing it for a long time. But I always loved stand-up. I would always listen to stand-up. And I always had an obsession. This is so nerdy. I always had an obsession with anime. And so I would kind of like it, while my life wasn't going the way I wanted it to, I would sit on my couch and just watch, 30 hours of just brightly colored seizure robots. Yeah, just forever. And so
that is an addictive personality right there.
Yes. Yeah. So
but a safe thing there.
It was a safe thing. And then I could never really dig out of the hole in the relationship. So when we broke up, I ended up because I didn't learn.
Well, just out of
time.
necessity,
I ended up in another thing just real fast, and that person was much more, have your own life, do your own thing.
Oh,
interesting thing that happened in that relationship. He had a stroke while we were having sex.
What?
He was a young man, 27.
That's scary.
This is happening more and more. I feel like there is no, seriously. There's something that's going on that people aren't talking about. Young people having strokes.
I've been saying that. One of my best friends died this year of a stroke, and this girl, Katie May, died of a stroke. Two people in 1 year, and I'm like, two 30-year-olds. I'm like, what's going on?
I met another stranger, too, who she had a stroke the previous year. She was a young girl.
Did he go to the chiropractor or something?
No, he had something called an AVM, an arterial vascular malformation, which is this thing in his brain. And he ended up not going to the hospital for a while. He went blind. So we were having sex.
He just thought it was good.
He goes blind.
Oh my god!
Only 100,
100% goes blind.
It didn't
for about
come back?
10 minutes. Comes back.
You're like the reverse Jesus. You actually,
I'm just ruining.
You actually gave him like leprosy and blindness.
Yeah, and then he left to take a final because he was, of course, getting his PhD in a thing because I have a type, and he comes back.
Patch Adams, one eye,
and then he does have permanent vision loss in one of his eyes.
Oh my gosh!
Well, yeah, because if you lose blood flow to any part of your body for long enough, it dies.
Yes, yeah.
Jeez.
So
but nothing you could have done. It was just he could have been on a jog or something.
Yeah, and he went to. It would have happened in.
Boy, that would have fucked me up though if I caused someone blindness.
Yeah, that was the other thing is so after that because that relationship honestly should have been about a year. The first relationship probably should have been about 2 years. Second relationship should have been about a year, but I hung in there. I'm
dedicated.
I'm afraid of being alone, and so I hung in there, and we were together for a while, and then we broke up, and then everything happened. I started doing therapy. I got this job that I really loved. I started listening because I was lonely. I started listening to podcasts and comedy albums almost constantly.
This is several years ago.
Yeah, this is several years
early days of podcasts.
Yeah, and so over time, my friend, well, actually my 12-step sponsor, she, when somebody says, I like comedy, and you're like, what are they about to say? Because they might say something. They might say a comedian you hate, right?
Yeah, like something like Hack. Like I love that guy. And
you're like, ugh, okay. So all our boxes checked, and so she bought tickets one day. She bought tickets to all of Patton Oswalt's. He was doing shows at the Largo to prep for his album. She bought tickets to all of them.
Oh my gosh!
So we got to watch the evolution of an album from a
master. Important to see live comedy, not just like what you see, because what you see on Netflix and all, it's great, and they're getting better at it. But it's like the cutaway shots, they pump in applause or what?
Right.
No, not necessarily pump in applause, but like they'll cut away, and you know that things are doctored. I was showing her someone's special recently. I was like, see, they clipped that from a different special, because you'll shoot like Louis C.K. just shot something like 5 to 7 full hours to get his one special, which is unheard of. But if you have the means, you do it. But anyway,
they're wearing the same wardrobe, but you can tell, like, oh, his shirt's untucked there, or like the belt is twisted.
Yeah, there was someone's belt. I think it was Jim Gaffigan. His belt was off, and I was like, see, they just took that from a different special or a different taping because it was off. But it was like, whatever for time, for whatever. I get you got to make the flow look perfect, but when you're in the room, you see a heckle, you see a guy, you see him be a part of the room. Not Yeah.
Well, and I watched. It's interesting. Like joke order is really important to roast battle. It's really important. Well, it's really important in your set, and you don't realize it. I watched him do. He does this joke about pitching porn titles and like a pitch meeting, but just talking about porn plots. And then he goes into this Doc McStuffins bit about his daughter, and because everybody had been so focused on fun porn names, they couldn't get into Doc McStuffins without thinking about porn. And he's slamming the mic stand against the stage going, "We're in a pornography K-hole, focus." And then he couldn't get the audience to change. He goes, "You know what, fuck it, I'm moving on." And it was such an instructive moment that like the audience will tell you, they'll inform you what they can do and what they can't do in that moment. So that's how I ended up. And then one day,
how soon after that did you get up on stage?
Probably about a year.
Yeah, you still had to digest. Like, oh,
yeah, probably a year. And we just went all over town and watched every show and figured out we didn't have to spend as much money as we were.
And this was with another girl, you know?
Yeah,
is she still doing stand up?
No, she's not even a stand up. She just
appreciated it. She didn't get into stand up with you.
Yeah, no, she just loves it.
Now, what did you study in college?
I actually didn't graduate college. I was in anthropology and then a psychology major for about 100 years.
That's amazing. That's so great for. I mean, everything's good for stand up. No matter what you study, it's going to apply to your life. But do you have like the type of parents that are like, really, you're gonna do this?
Oh, no, my parents are dead.
Oh.
Everyone's dead.
I didn't know that.
No, it's okay.
Look, I did my homework and
I
got a coffee. I was like, oh, that's all. I Googled you.
No, it's so funny. It's a big part of sort of my stand-up. I have a joke where I'm bound and determined to make Parkinson's funny. That's my goal. My dad, when I was about 12, my parents split up. And then within about 6 months, they were both remarried, lived in different places. Mm-hmm. Everything changed all at once. And then my dad was diagnosed with a Parkinson's type illness called multiple systems atrophy. And it's what took his life. And he was really tough. This only takes about 2 years to take people out. He was from 15 to 17, so it was 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And he was 57 when he passed. And then my mom, when I was 28, died of a pulmonary embolism. She just suddenly. I think of
So yeah, which one's more? I know it's impossible to decide which ones. How do you wrap your head around a slow death and then something that's just an overnight shock?
Well, what ended up happening and what pushed me into therapy was I hadn't worked on any of the grief. I thought I was just like, oh my God. And I was still drinking at the time. And so I was a mess when my dad died. And then when my mom died, a lot of stuff came up about both.
That you had just sort of buried and ignored and moved on from.
Right. And then the dude had just had a stroke and the whole thing, it was just, is this my life forever?
Mortality.
Yeah.
You don't realize this. I mean, you had to do it early on with your father, but you don't we've dealt with my buddy who died of a stroke this year. And then another friend from New York just randomly died of a heart attack that a guy I worked with, so I didn't know him that well. Yeah. But then you start looking at his family. You started being like, oh my gosh, just the ripple effect in the community is just crazy. Tasha's grandparents, it's you start to be like, what are we even doing? Like, you gotta learn how to cope, which we all do. But it's when it's you, it's like. You start to question everything.
Yeah, I don't think people know how to. I think socially we don't process grief very well.
There's no, it's something that people don't like to talk about because it makes them uncomfortable. Right. Any sort of loss. I was having this conversation with my best friend last night. That people, because they don't know what to say, they just don't say anything.
Yeah.
And so we've developed this culture where everybody just sort of buries it, and we haven't discovered the right way to address grief, right? Because we're not practicing it.
Exactly. And because I had to really actively practice it, and at the same time, so I become single through, it was really therapy that brought up, I'm still with this person because they had a tragedy, and I'm not happy, they're not happy, we need to move on. So I become single in the middle of this, and then I have these dating experiences where I got fixed up on a date with a friend of a friend. He died 2 weeks after the date.
Oh, my gosh.
Or actually 2 days. I found out 2 weeks after. I just thought he didn't like me.
I always joke around that that's the best case scenario when you get ghosted, is to hope that they died, because at least then you know and then it wasn't that they didn't like you. But I've never heard of that actually happening.
And then it happened again. I went on a date with somebody I knew in a 12-step program, and about a month after that date, he died. And so initially when I started to write stand-up, I was like, okay, so these are the relatable. I wrote 2 lists. I wrote list of things I think other people can really relate to of premises. And then I wrote a list of things that have only happened to me but make great stories. And that's really what my act has become.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of death in my act. There's a ton of just like weird dating. So like how do you in your 20s basically only date 2 people, and then you come out there weren't cell phones when I met my ex, and now there's Tinder. So I had to learn how to date.
I'm listening. Keep talking. I have to plug the thing.
Yeah, do your thing.
You guys keep talking. Sorry.
I had to learn how to date online in a crazy way and learn and have all these experiences. And so it's been fun to kind of bring in the mortality and the sort of the dark humor to it, the gallows humor of dating. So yeah, those are the things that happen, because I'm like, we're on your sex podcast, we might as well talk about those things too. But and I was single for about 4 years, and I loved it. If you are struggling with being in a relationship or staying out of it, like if you're a serial monogamy person, stay in a relationship or stay out of a relationship so long that you sleep in the middle of your bed like a starfish. Just
I said that last night. I was like, I think we should have separate bedrooms because I really just want to sleep as big as I can. Oh my gosh.
I was like, is this a trap? Because I'm okay with that.
And then if one of you left tomorrow, you'd sleep on one side and stare at the lonely hole the whole night. Don't do that. Sleep in the middle. That's how you survive a breakup. You sleep in the middle of that bed, and you eat cookies in the middle of that bed and have fun.
Do you mourn a breakup the way... Is it as final to you as death?
It was for a long time. And not even that, just friendships. I would hold on to everybody with a death grip. Just like, no, don't leave me, please, because when you leave, you die. And I had to consciously work through. It was my sponsor said, you have so many friends and people in your life that you don't have to hold on to everyone like it's the only person who's ever going to love you. You can let people come in and out. It's going to be okay. You'll survive. And once I figured out how to actively do that, it changed my friendships. It changed my professional relationships.
So were you
everything.
I don't like to use the term cling, but were you holding on to your boyfriends in the same regard, like not afraid to let them go? Were they, or is that just something where...
I'm not really a clingy person per se, but I definitely won't go anywhere. I will wait until the relationship is as dead as it could possibly be before.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
cold.
Zombie. I'll wait till the relationship is just walking.
Just shit's eating it away. It's dead.
It's dead.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I don't want to have any second guesses about stuff like that.
Yeah, you want to be 100% sure. You don't want to like pull the plug on something that maybe has a fighting chance.
Well, Tasha will walk. She'll walk.
Well, we're talking about 2 different things here. Friendships. You were talking about like really feeling like you're strangling your friendships. That's so easy for me. I feel like people come in and out of your life. Just that's been my experience. It ebbs and flows. People come in and they go out when they no longer serve a purpose, and that's so okay. And sometimes it can be tragic and you miss them and whatever, but it's much easier for me to move on from like a friendship that's run its course, because I know that it was true and perfect when it was supposed to be, and now I've found someone else. But in my relationships, I do
the opposite.
Yeah, I never break up with anybody unless it's just like really not working. I I'll sit around and be unhappy instead of being the one that's brave enough to make a change.
You don't break up with guys? You broke up with me 1,000,000 times.
But I never really threw you out.
How long, when you guys first got together, how long did it take for because I'm one of those people, if I break up with you one time, that's it. I have weighed the options.
Yeah, you've really made up your mind.
Done.
What's your sign?
I'm a Gemini.
Okay, that surprises me, actually.
I never
feel
know
like
what that means.
What's your rising sign?
Ooh, Aquarius.
I don't know anything about. I've only met one Aquarius in my entire life.
Well, it's 2 air signs, but both a little. Aquarius is a little more on the intellectual side, and then Virgo is the
moon.
Yes, so that's more grounded. That's more. I think that probably pops out a lot. Where I'm just like, no, I will. And I got to a point where I would just, even with the sex idiots, I would just cut them for anything. Just no, we're done. And I would do it nicely. I'd just be like, I feel like this has run its course. And
so, but you say you're serial monogamous. Do you? But you're just not willing to put up with shit. Because you said several of these relationships lasted way longer.
Really long time. Well, when I started doing therapy, both my therapist and my sponsor, get this is the weirdest therapy thing. My therapist was like, you need to learn how to have casual sex. You need to learn to A, have a sex life, and B, not fall in love with every single person you sleep with.
Yeah.
And that was a thing I actively did.
And you learned that, or did you?
Yeah.
Well, you have to develop that.
You have to develop the skill.
Just the same way that people have to develop the skill of being single, because they have to. So many women I know don't give themselves the time to really develop themselves and their own personalities. They're so wrapped up in always searching for someone else, and they're missing out on all this amazing quality time, me time for themselves.
And that year, I learned how to bake. I learned how to surf. I went bungee jumping.
You.
I did. If anybody asked me, especially a friend, like a girlfriend, if anyone asked me to do something, regardless of what it was, I would say yes. I went to bands I had never heard of before. I went to see, I did the bungee jumping thing. I had no interest in bungee jumping. I just did everything anybody asked me to do because I wanted to find myself. And I know that I'm a group kind of a person. Yeah. Let's go do
stuff.
And
it's so important too to be scared and like face your fears. I went through the same thing. I went through a phase just like that where I made up my mind that I was going to say yes to every invitation because I have a tendency to be a little.
Except when I was asking her out.
Antisocial. Well, but you got to know your limits too. I was appreciating being single, and so I didn't want, and lots of guys were asking me out, and I was telling lots of guys no because I wanted me time.
Hearts.
But I made a point to always say yes. So I did a lot of things that really scared me, and that was so good for me.
Yeah.
So, it's really empowering. It's really freeing to know that your worst fears don't come true when you decide to go hang out with a group of strangers.
Exactly.
Does it take a rock bottom to get there? And by rock bottom,
I think so.
It's like your own personal bottom, at least your bottom to whatever sort of energy level you're at. Did you feel like you had nothing to lose by trying all these things, by trying stand-up? I mean, no one does it when they're like, hey, I'm on top of the world. It's kind of like, ugh.
That's true. You come into stand-up the same way you come into AA. Like, this is the last house on the block. I don't know what to do with this. Because I had all this creative energy. What I like to call, unused stand-up energy. So I have very little filter, and I would just say stuff at work and get in trouble in a board meeting for cracking a joke. Or I would always just kind of be talking to a client, and I would say something and they would just fall over laughing. Or I'd be in therapy, and my therapist, one time we were leaving, another therapist is coming out of the office, and he goes, I don't know what you two are doing in there, but it sounds like fun. And so I just had all this unused comedic energy. And so when I did it, I remember calling my sponsor and going, okay, so this is the thing. This is the thing I should have been doing all this time. And I just poured all of it, just all my time. I stopped doing martial arts. I just poured all of my energy into getting good at stand-up because I didn't want to just do it. I looked around. I was like, I'm 32 years old. Everybody around me is 21, and they're better than me. What do I need to do? So I just started
to really put yourself on the fast track.
It's not necessarily a young man's game, but it does come off that way in some regards. Like if you're 19 and you're funny,
well, have some experiences to talk about.
Exactly,
True.
Life experience.
Yeah.
So but I'm the same way where I'm turning 32, and I'm seeing guys that are literally 22 that are funny, and they might have the life experience, but I feel like in some ways they're getting in at a level where it's young, fresh, hip, college age.
Yeah.
And it's I'm never going to compete against that. Just get funny. Just get funny, and maybe I'll be the funniest in the next level of things.
But also, you can't be what you're not.
Yeah.
You have to be you.
But you have the same thing. Well, I mean, you're like going into castings with girls that are probably barely 18.
Yeah,
it's you gotta
so
look at
funny.
These bitches, be all excited to like.
Well, but it's not even. Yeah, it's just we're on such a different level. I was, again, talking with my best friend about this exact thing yesterday that, like, I just can't compete. I can't pretend to be excited about this dumb casting or this dumb job. Like, I've just got other real life things on my mind. So when you see these, like, fresh 18, 19-year-olds that are so excited to be there.
We made it.
It's like,
they got like a spring in their step. And
you're so green. You've got no idea what you're in for. The cynicism hasn't set in yet. Like,
how do you be the mature, older person but not cynical? Because cynicism, that's bad.
Yeah,
but we all have it. I just had it in a way.
Yeah,
like,
it is like a gloomy energy that you bring into the room.
Are you on the Broke LA? Are you on it this year?
Yeah.
So great! Congratulations!
Thank
It's
you.
a festival of arts. But I have to say, I opened the poster and I saw people on it, and I go, oh. Because I'm like, but I didn't even submit. I didn't know how to. But I'm like, this person, that, and then immediately
it's a free submission too.
I know, and immediately I make it about me. You know what I mean?
Oh,
that's an issue we have.
Next year, I'm going to message you because that was the first that was the first time I felt like I was doing something really big in stand-up.
Do you know what show you're doing?
We'll
plug it right now.
I don't know what. Last year I was on the earlier show. I might be on the earlier show. It was actually the later show was supposed to be like the more hachi machi comics, longer sets, but. The earlier show was so much fun because it was a lot of kids that were over. It was really hot, and it was a lot of kids that had just taken too much Molly and they needed to rest. And they were such a good crowd. They were so much fun.
You're like I made my audience sweat. I fucking
they were so, and they were sitting on the floor, and all the girls. I started doing my set, and David Rosenberg, speaking of just like people who've just been around for 100 years, David Rosenberg went up and he just destroyed the room in the way that
Connecticut? The guy from Connecticut?
Yeah, the one who's always just like talking about guinea pigs in his butt. Like he's doing his thing, and he has a great set. And then it was just that actually is my tape I send out is from Broke LA because it was so much fun. So
was this past year?
That was the previous year.
Oh, okay.
Or that was the past year.
I don't know anything about these local like festivals until they come, and I'm like, that looks like fun. Where am I? You know what I mean?
That's free submissions.
I know.
That's
my fault. So that's my own shit for looking at it and comparing myself to 95 people on it.
I said this to a friend of mine yesterday, especially after the roast battle thing, because you go into that mindset and you're like, I'm just happy to be a part of the experience, but the competitive monster that got you that far is like, bitch, we want to win.
Yeah.
And so everyone's kind of experienced a little bit of come down from doing roast battle. And
Absolutely.
He and I were talking, and he was kind of having some trouble looking over the fence at other people's careers and what they're doing with it. And I said, man, at some point we just have to learn to be grateful for what we've been given and what we didn't get.
Yeah.
Because what we didn't get is probably not good. You know, like the thing.
It wasn't meant to be for you.
It just wasn't meant to be.
We don't talk about our successes. We talk about the things we didn't get or what someone else got. And it's like, I never talk about the success of my podcast. I always talk about the things I didn't get into. And it's like, what am I sending out to the world that I'm not grateful? And I am, but it's something that's a daily reminder to stay in your lane, to not look too far ahead or behind, and just know that you're getting where you need to go on your own pace. And, you know, it's healthy to have those breakdowns once in a while to keep us going, but not when it fucks with
as long as you put yourself in check.
Yeah, put yourself in check. And it's the same thing with like if someone's like single and they want a relationship, it's like don't squeeze the shit out of the relationship because then it's going to run away from you. And
or you focus on the wrong thing.
Yeah.
You've got to be focusing on the positive side of whatever it is. Focus on like how grateful you are that things are happening for you in your own time when you're ready, not before you're ready.
In your industry, it's like the stock market with social media, and ours too, but not so much. It's like you're valued based on a number. It's like we've quantified. Social media has quantified like people's worth in a way that's like you're worth X amount because you have this following.
Right.
And to a degree, it's true on a pay scale, but it's also like you could literally have 0 followers, and if you're right for something, you're right for something. Or you could have 1 million and you're running past people with 50 times your following because you look like a genuine person, not like a bimbo.
In general, not even work related. Everybody on the planet is guilty of comparing themselves to others when they shouldn't. We all have Facebook. We all get on there. We look at people we went to high school with. What are you doing? What are they doing? It's not a healthy thing. You've got to really be focused on your own journey.
Right.
But the industry will, like, I'm sure the industry loves you guys as a couple, as a comedy couple.
Wait, I don't think anyone's really noticed it yet, but I feel like they should because he's delightful.
I put the pieces together listening to his bit about you not knowing Spanish.
Yeah, I don't
White guy,
Spanish.
knows Spanish, dates a girl who doesn't know Spanish, a Hispanic girl who doesn't know Spanish.
Yeah.
Which I think it was a hilarious bit.
It's a great bit. I was really, because we were just over dinner one time and he said something, and we were just talking about how he's bilingual, and he's just one of those people who's brilliant. He just picks up languages and he's intellectual like that. Mm-hmm. And I failed Spanish about 4 times before giving up.
Right.
And so I mentioned to him, like, why do you not do it on stage? Because a lot of people expect me to kind of to pander a little bit, to do that thing where occasionally I'll have a punchline in Spanish. And I can throw enough slang in there, but it's just false advertising. It's not who I am. I'm the most whitewashed Mexican you've ever met.
Is your family from, as far as like back in the day?
In Mexico?
Are you Mexican?
Yeah, my dad was Mexican. I think, Oaxaca.
I've been there.
And it's weird because I didn't really get a lot of great information from. I'm now kind of getting closer to my dad's side of the family, but I didn't have a lot of great information for a while in that regard. And then my mom drank a lot, and my grandmother, who's a therapist, but she's so kooky. You never know. Like, this is a real conversation I had with my grandmother on my mom's side of the family. She said, this last Christmas, she said she didn't eat one day. And I said, well, I'd like you to go eat. Could you go eat? And she said, well, I did eat. And I go, but you just told me you didn't eat. She goes, well, I said, are you lying to me, Grandma? And she goes, well, I lie a lot, but I'm not lying now. And I was like, okay, that should be on our family crest. That is, I'm from the white side of my family is just like high class grifters. And then the Mexican side of my family, very, very fun, very sweet. But I'm not particularly close with them. But yeah, my dad, he was in California forever and ever. And he had his own jazz radio show on our local PBS station.
Pulling the smooth from your Johnny Coltrane.
Exactly. Very just beautiful, smooth voice. He was very engaging. People would just gravitate toward him. And my mom sounded and carried herself like if George Carlin was a lady. Just growly and kind of sarcastic, ranty, and
nice.
She'd tell you exactly what she thought, whether or not it was accurate. She would just keep talking, and
as long as she believes it, that's all that matters.
Exactly, she could convince you. So I have a nice mix from both of them on stage of being like the roast battle stuff. I feel is very much my mother, and the ability to just tell a good story on stage is my dad.
I don't want to speak for you, but it's kind of a struggle to know when the audience is actually on board with you and take it slow in a story. We get kind of trained to do these 2 to 3, 4, 5 minute sets, 60-second sets, sometimes crazy like audition sets where we just like, boom, gotta get the joke out, boom, boom, boom. And then there's this beauty of silence. And I'm sure it's just a cool thing when you can have the moment where you're like, look in the audience, like, oh, they're actually all listening, because in so many times it's out of our control. We're at a bar show. I've done shows where the Olympics are on next to me, the gymnastics at the dime bar. I'm trying to do a set, and I'm like, we're rooting. We're literally the whole country is against me right now, rooting for this thing.
Or Big Wings on Monday. Have you been over there?
I have, yeah.
It is first off, whoever's going to Big Wings to just hang out. They're just a monster energy drink.
Some guy almost fought
me
over there in the parking lot because my buddy Gilbert fake tackled me or whatever. It was like messing around, and I had little straps on my backpack, and one of the straps hit this guy's car, and it's plastic, so it made a loud noise, and maybe it could have scratched him. This guy got really upset. I'm like, I'm not trying.
Sorry, bro.
This isn't how I want to get in a fight at Big Wang.
And then
Hollywood.
He got in his car and went to the Fast and Furious set and just drove.
He was the type of guy who had a huge pickup truck. I barely, you know what I mean? But he would have.
What are you doing with that in Los Angeles?
Well, exactly.
There is no room
beating me up in a
You should have
lot.
a horse like just being trailered. If you have a big truck, you should always be forced to have a horse.
It had ended, babe.
No, hit the refresh because we are recording. Sorry, I was just trying to see.
No, I'm telling you,
no,
I
know
looked
it
at
stopped
it.
on there, but it's recording on the hard drive, so we'll be fine. We'll post it after. But this is this is a normal technical difficulty when you're recording on Wi-Fi. But for those who are listening, we will be on the Sex Actually page on Facebook and YouTube at Dave Neal. But we're almost at an hour. I don't want to wrap up just yet, but I want to. I know, right?
What do you want to
talk
talk
about?
about?
We didn't even get started.
I know.
Where do you guys want to talk?
Well,
what are we supposed to talk about?
I want to know so what's your strategy 6 months into a relationship with playing it cool, but also like next steps? Like, where are you with that?
Ooh, that's a great question. So I had this
because we're the generation that doesn't want to like look crazy, but also like you don't shit or get off the pot.
Well, okay. So when I realized this, like here's where the empathy came in. When you're in your 20s, you don't say I love you ever to anybody, right? And when you're in your 30s, you say I love you to baristas. You don't care. You just want love in your life. You're just pouring it out. Right. You read The Secret. You're like, okay, here we go. And so there was a point in our relationship where I knew going into it, like this is a little different. I haven't felt this way in a very long time, if not ever. It was just really different and in a positive way. And so I could tell, like, we would look at each other, it's just super warm, and I could tell it was there, and I wanted to say it, but I wouldn't say it. So my friends who are all, like, really fast to say I love you, they were like, hey, have you said I love you yet? And I'm like, nope, I'm not going to be the person who does it first this time. It never works out for me. And then I ended up writing
Playing defense.
Well, I ended up writing a bit about it because I thought it was really funny. And one day we were running mics together, and we did like 3 mics together, and that was my new bit. I have to work this bit out. So I'm going on stage saying this thing about like how I don't want to lose the game of I love you chicken. And I'm saying it in front of him over and over and over again. And it was like over, and probably a couple of months happened, and then just recently he dropped
a couple of months since he heard that bit.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like that would have put it.
He does not negotiate with terrorists. You know what I mean? He's not gonna. Yeah. And I just waited him out, and so he dropped it on me recently. So here's what I've learned. Okay, patience is a big deal. Having your own lives but making time for each other is a big deal. But the important thing about just being, we have our own careers and we do our own thing, and we can share some stuff. Like there was an audition where they needed me to roast somebody, and I brought him onto camera for me to roast, and then they called us and they were like, we want to see him too. And so there are moments where, we can kind of, my whole thing is if the relationship is not bettering both people's lives, then you got to move on.
Yeah.
But we haven't, when did you guys move in together?
Early. We started in February 3 years ago. We moved in like 9 months later, but it was kind of it starts off like economics. Like I was like, look, I'm already living here 5 nights a week. The nights I'm not here, you're giving me shit for not being here. Not in a way, you know what I mean? But like,
but also
we were about to travel together for like a few weeks. So I was like, I got a buddy who's been living on my couch. I can give him my room and be done with that and split her rent. She's saving money. It's kind of hard to say no when nothing's changing and she's saving half her rent.
Right.
So we moved in sort of early. And
what does sort of early mean?
I mean, 9 months. I don't know
okay,
what. Maybe
that's pretty. I mean,
we had known each other as friends a little bit, so it wasn't a stranger. And I don't know. Do we do it too early?
I thought it was fine.
It was a little.
I guess I have conflicting opinions about that. Like, it's so hard to break up when you live together.
I feel like it changes things.
I feel like it
quickly.
Forced her to not play the runaway bride card, which I know.
So is she a runaway bride lady?
Well, when we would get in an argument back before, she would be like, "Go home," and I was like, "I'm here," and that forces
I need
her.
My space. Get out of here.
And here's the thing: I can speak about Tasha because I've gotten to know this lovely lady very well, and I'll say this: that like you can't. I'm not the type who's going to let you put your head in the sand if I've had to learn.
The comedian will get in your. The elephant in the room. They will find it. They will stand on it. They'll kick it. They'll throw it at you.
It's crazy
you
that
will address that elephant.
Her family will like let her act a certain way or just like not acknowledge it, and they'll be like, Dave, and then
or give her the space to feel her feelings in her time. That's another way to look at it.
Yeah, that sounds like the more positive spin. Thank you.
I got to turn your mic off. It's a little no, and I've tried to learn that to be like, all right, she needs time. I'm trying to solve things right away. She might need an hour. That's batshit crazy to me, but I have to understand that what's right for me isn't what's right for everyone. But I still don't speak that language where she doesn't want to fix things right away. How do you not want to fix things right away? We can both feel good now.
I'm just too like high strung of a person. I feel my feelings to the extreme, and you cannot expect me to have like a clear head or like say what I want to say. I'll just go. I go straight to level 100. Taurus.
We're both Taurus. I'll take the dog and carry the dog onto her and like hug each other and be like, we love the dog, we're holding the dog, we love each other, like, but because all I'm trying to do is be like, this isn't what we're arguing about, isn't the issue to me. I know it's not. I know if the pillow hits the floor and she's like, babe, that's disgusting, I'm like, well, why? We touched it, and like I'll be rational and defensive and I'll escalate the fight, and next thing you know, we're not fighting about what's the matter, which is we just missed each other, we should be hanging out. Instead we're arguing about something completely irrelevant, and now we're still not hanging out.
Have you found that some arguments have just occurred because you probably needed to have sex?
Hey,
that sounds to me like the perfect scenario of like, oh, we should have just had sex, reaffirmed like physically, emotionally, and like chemically that we're connected.
And by sex, you mean spent quality time together
and quality
and
time
sex and orgasm and all that, of course, but showing each other. We do device free time sometimes. We say we're going to do it and then we're not. Like I brought the In and Out the other night. I was like, I'm going to surprise her, we're going to turn the phones off. She's going to be too bloated to want to fuck. Totally. I'm just, you know what I mean? Like every time we do something good, like go out to dinner. We postponed our Valentine's night because we were both working, so we did it this Sunday.
Yeah, we
got a big Italian dinner. Like, we're cool. Like there isn't a crazy pressure of like how we're supposed to be, but I have to realize everything I'm doing, I've got this new side job. It's taking a lot of my time. All this stuff I'm doing, it's so I can afford to like have a wife and travel and stuff. But in the day-to-day moment, she's like, babe, we haven't spent time together. Does she say it to me like that?
Just like every other person our age, we're guilty of bringing home our work, and never really like, and not being present. You bring home your stress from work. You're still thinking about work. You're still thinking about other things you have to do. You've got to shoot off an email. You want to whatever.
Yeah.
And instead of like being present in the moment and really making each other feel valued for the time that you're spending together, I don't know. That's what I think more about, in the same way as like, oh, maybe you guys just needed to have sex, or maybe you just needed to like actually be there,
or sleep next to each other, something like
that.
And
it's hard for me because we went on a hike the other day, month ago, and I'm like counting out loud, and she's like, babe, what are you even doing?
No, he's counting on his fingers. I like looked back and I saw like this happening, and I was like, what?
Guess what I was doing?
You were
just guess. Do you have any idea what I was counting?
You were counting the days since?
I was counting how many mics I had done that week.
Oh, how funny.
Because in my head, I'm thinking, this is all fun, but if I don't get on stage tonight, I'm not getting better. I'm getting worse.
But you're looking at the time. It must have been the afternoon.
Because we're like late.
It was.
Because I'm used to fitting everything in on my own schedule. Now I have to worry about someone else, which is great. But in my own head, I used to be able to do 50 times more things because I could just pile on top of my day. Now I have to come home, get my gym clothes, then go out and do that and this and that. So in my head,
why were you doing
those
not being
things?
fully present in the activity that we're doing together?
Totally guilty of that, of course. And that's where I have to come to the table and realize sometimes I'll come home doing a lottery mic where I don't get on stage and I didn't get to pursue what I want to do, and I'm coming home and I'm bringing that rage, and I don't mean like kick the door down rage, but frustration, and I'm bringing that into a perfect home.
Right.
I need Tasha I need to acknowledge it myself, but also I need her to be like, babe, this is what's going on, because we both know our way out of it. But I don't mean to make it like it's her problem. What
if you had, instead of counting on your fingers, what if you had just said, I'm wondering if I got on stage enough this week. I went to this mic and then this mic and then this mic. Is that a conversation
babe,
you could
shut
up. I don't want to hear about mics. Oh my god,
they
are the worst.
That's just different ways that we think, and it's what we're really doing is we need to remember to stay in the moment, and that's like a meditative thing.
And to be forgiving too of people who are just wrapped up in their own. Sometimes you just need a minute.
And I'm going to say this right now. We're not going to solve.
And to not like have a defensive sort of response, but just be like, okay, I'm going to be okay with you having taken a few minutes. I'm going to be okay with the fact that we're not on the same page. And when you're ready, we're here, and it's not a big deal.
Are you guys at the stage where, like, if he books a weekend somewhere, does he ask you, like, hey, is it like I gotta go do this? Does he like just throw it by you, like, hey, or just like let you know?
We don't. And that was actually as close to getting into an argument. We needed to talk about scheduling and spending time together because he would do. I work on the weekends, and the way I go in, it's like a fireman shift. I go in on Friday, and I leave on Sunday. And so, yeah. So
you stay there?
I just live there with those ladies. And so he'll kind of call and text kind of in there. And so he's out doing his weekend stuff. That doesn't usually interrupt anything I've got going on. What we did need to do was figure out, okay, so if that's my schedule and this is your schedule, how do we get this in? And he's still a little more last minute about stuff, and where I have stuff happening during the day, so I can't just wipe the slate clean all day. And and there's also stuff I'd like to do, like go to the gym and send my own emails and stuff. And one thing that he does that's really nice is before he'll get on his phone, he'll say, hey, I've got to send this email, do you mind? And just that little thing is just, it really helps. And so he'll just kind of, and then he'll do that. And
not wasting the other person's time or taking it for granted. And that's hard when you live together, spend a lot of time together, because, like, of course we got to do our own things. But also, like, if we're supposed to be watching a show together, if she has to, like, let's pause it and get what you have to get done so I don't have to rewind it. Sorry to make it always about me. But yeah, that's a great thing that he does. Like, do you mind if but that's something you do with strangers, and we forget that the longer we date.
He's
and that's
polite.
An important thing to remember.
He's polite on a level in his daily life, which is everyone. And in what's remarkable is it does carry into the relationship.
He was raised very well.
Very well.
You can tell. You got to meet him.
Would you bring him? His family?
Would you bring him on this show together?
That would be great.
I'd love to have him separate as well.
Yeah.
Because he's a genius and a nice guy, but, like, together it would be fun to talk.
He's such a sweetheart. And he really, I mean, in a lot of ways, he doesn't do, I'm talking so much about him, but it's that kind of podcast. He doesn't, there's, like, stuff he just doesn't do that a lot of other people do. Because he's very, like, he doesn't eat fast food. He's never had Jack in a Box. You know what I mean? He doesn't really watch porn. Like, everything in his life is very, like, organic and kind of, so he's very present and very in the moment. Very present. Yeah.
It's so great for stand-up to, like, be present.
It really is. And I remember before we ever got together, I was so stressed out. I was doing potluck, and I was in the hall getting really nervous. And he said, hey, all you have to do is just connect with people.
Potluck
that's all
being
your job
the
is.
big mic that you do at the Comedy Store. It's a very big deal. No, I mean,
and
it's
the hard. It's so
people travel
hard
all over
in
the
there.
Country to get in there.
You'll find out if you've been getting away with a joke at a bar gig because it's a bar gig joke. You will find out
You're
OR.
standing on Richard Pryor's stage. You're standing on these legends, Robin Williams and all that. And it's so he just told you to connect.
Just connect with the audience. Just real calm and zen about it. And
on the inside, your blood's racing. You're like, oh, really, jackass? That's it.
But yeah, so that's, and as far as, I'm trying to think argument, communication-wise, we've both, he's always kind of dated older women, and so his communication level reflects that. He's very good at communicating. We had a moment this morning, it was so funny. He is really good with sort of topography. I didn't say that right, but he's good with geography, local geography. He knows exactly where everything is, and I'm just taking him to get his car serviced. And he is explaining it to me, and I haven't had a cup of coffee. He doesn't even drink coffee, so he doesn't understand. My brain is just garbage. Yeah. And so he's explaining it to me, and then he isn't feeling well, so he kind of sounded a little snippy. And I waited a second. We're driving back, and I was like, babe, sometimes I've lived around LA, but I haven't lived in LA, so I'm not always going to know where things are. And then he said, well, I'm used to giving directions to my mom, and she never knows where anything is. I said, but I'm not your mom.
Yeah.
And that's a communication thing. Yeah. It's a simple thing that's like of no offense to each other. It's just, you're just literally not receiving what he's sending out.
Yeah, and I misinterpreted what he said, and he misinterpreted why I was asking questions, and that's all okay because it's not really an argument. It really doesn't.
As soon as you address it,
to fight. Like, I just refuse to have huge arguments over dumb stuff.
Look, I can keep asking questions, but we have to cut this off. Like, you're gonna have to come back again.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's great. We're already way over the thing.
Dude, we could talk for hours.
Look, here's the thing. Grab the box. So, can you grab the box? No, do it.
We're doing the chocolate.
Yeah, I'm gonna do 5 minutes of this chocolate. So
from your sponsor, right?
No, so we have a friend of the podcast named Rachel. She listens in Australia.
Rachel,
she's in Queensland, Australia.
Girl.
Queensland. Cut that thing open.
Chocolate's important.
We know she sent us Vegemite, but we're not going to test the Vegemite today because that requires toast. And,
I've never.
We don't keep bread in the house. We have to go get bread.
So,
I love that.
So here, bust it open, and we'll pick one of the chocolates that's gluten friendly or gluten free.
Oh yeah, I think they probably all are.
And then okay, so great. So she sent us this nice thing.
What?
She sent us a whole bag of candy. So Rachel, thank you so much. We're gonna every episode we're gonna test a different one.
Okay.
So I'll let you choose what we want.
I didn't know it came in a tube. I thought it would come in a jar.
I think these are either British or look at that. So that's got kangaroos. What's on that? Fur?
It's Cadbury. They make eggs.
Well, yeah, Cadbury, but Cadbury doesn't sell any of this in the States. They have a kangaroo.
Okay.
That's a dingo, the dog.
A wombat.
So either we eat that or Tim Tams I want to hold on to.
Well, these are Cadbury. So let's and those are lifesavers. So let's take this stuff out.
Fruit tingles.
Wait.
And here we go. The cherry ripe, the big cherry taste. Before we bite into it, because we'll just trail off, where can people find you in your social media?
You can find me at Anna V is Fun on Twitter and Instagram. That's Anna with 2 N's. And then you can find me on my website, AnnaValenzuela.com, for all my show dates and stuff coming out. And if you want me to come out and tell jokes about killing guys with my vagina, I will do it. Book me. And then
make them blind.
Yeah. And then just Facebook. Oh, I have a podcast I need to bring back, and it's called 12 Questions. You can find that on SoundCloud, and it's where I ask people 12 questions from a recovery perspective.
Oh, cool.
I get good feedback on it. I have not been consistent, so
that's why
I know.
Let's go. We'll get the life support. We'll get it going.
Yeah, this gets the juices going.
Yeah, you got it. I mean, you have such a great voice with what you talk about,
thank
and
you.
We didn't break the ice on who you are, and that's.
I felt I just talked to my boy. Oh God.
75 minutes in, and we got to so anyway, find her. You can. I googled you to watch your.
Did we get to break the ice? What do you want to know?
I don't know. I mean,
ask me a lightning round question.
Lightning rounds.
I'll answer it fast.
What's a good lightning round? Ever have a one-night stand?
Yes, and sober. Weird.
And was that after your therapist told you?
Yeah.
So you're just doing homework at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, why do you have a notepad? It's just this is
class.
Yeah,
I have to figure this out. Yeah, I've had one night stands. It's fun.
It's weird that I'm holding the cherry ripe.
Where do you typically find your one night stand?
Ooh, well, Tinder.
Oh, that's easy.
OkCupid, that kind of thing. So,
and most people are down on Tinder, right? Like it's not.
They know what they're about.
But for those people who aren't down, who are really looking for the more serious thing, then where do they go? They need to be on a paid dating site, right?
Yeah, they need to go somewhere. Go to what is that? Match.com. Go to that.
Yeah.
Pay for it. Yeah, then you'll feel a better respect for it. Whatever.
Yeah.
We didn't pay for this candy. So look, for people listening, you guys, the audience is so great. I know this is a horrible transition, but go find Anna. Go shoot her a message on her Instagram. We'll post a photo on the Sex Actually page. So any dating questions?
I follow you guys on Instagram.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Sex Actually Pod on Instagram. You can follow us there. We'll tag Anna in our photo, so you can just go there to find her. And then sexactuallypodcast@gmail.com. If you have any questions, send them our way. We'll answer them. We're not therapists, but we'll give you an honest answer. We have nothing to gain or lose out of that. Nothing like honest sex help from strangers. And all right, what are we going to eat here?
That cherry thing that you have in your hand.
We're doing the cherry. Are we
ripe.
split this, or there's two? How hungry are you? Do you want your own one?
I just want
to
bite.
Take your own.
What
I know your boyfriend's organic, but
whatever.
We're going to go.
We've talked enough about him on this podcast.
All right, get in the picture.
All right,
this is for
we're
later.
taking a photo. Okay, take a photo. All right, so this is for you, Rachel, in Queensland. Thank you so much for sending us this. And let's just do an honest. Let's do an honest review of Cherry Ripe, the big cherry taste. Everyone get a good bite of it. Okay. Let's do a 1-bite review. How does it taste after that first bite? Here we go.
All right, let's see. Ooh, okay, it's chocolate.
Oh no.
Ooh, I want this.
It's really good.
Oh, it hits you in a second.
Is that coconut in there?
Holy shit, there's coconut.
It was really good.
Cherry covered. Chocolate covered cherries and coconut are my two favorite things, and
this
they're
is
in one bar.
my favorite thing too. I think when
look at the dog. The dog showed up.
He heard a rapper. He was like, "Yeah." Hey, Suavi.
He's so funny. Oh my god! Yes.
Here comes the big old dog.
Oh, does he have a lightning round question? That's so funny.
Hi, baby.
Anyway, so we'll get out of here. First bite of that. I
This
want to
is
give
delicious.
that, as far as a is it dark chocolate covered cherry with coconuts? I'm going to give that an 8 out of 10. That's called the ripe cherry.
This is delicious.
Cherry ripe.
Cherry ripe.
Cherry ripe.
Give me one more bite.
I'm not bringing half of this.
All right, everyone. This is the Sex Actually podcast. You guys have been great. Anna Valenzuela, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for
You're
having
our
me, Dick.
first person to do a taste testing with us.
It's delicious.
And it's kind of like ironic. Maybe it's not irony, but the fact that it was like a cherry,
ripe
ripe cherry. I feel like
I feel like we just turned into an '80s metal song. Like we're all gonna
ripe cherry. He just licked mine. I'm still going to eat it. The ripe cherry. That'll be the name of the episode. Thank you so much, Rachel, for sending these to us all the way from Australia. I hope it isn't poison. Tasha Courtney at Tasha Courtney on Instagram
and Twitter. Tasha TV on Snapchat. A lot of you guys have been writing me on Snapchat telling me that you're listening. That makes me so happy. Send me some more messages. Let me know if you have any questions for us, and we will try and answer them.
And hey, look, if you listen from a different part of the world, for some reason, there's literally 90 countries that listen. We were on a men's dating company like retweeted us. So we had like a dude in Shanghai. And if you're from a weird part of the world and you want to send me chocolate, I won't stop you. I love that I gave up sugar.
Got a sugar addiction.
And then they send me one free thing, and I'm like, it's free. I have to eat it. I'm Irish Catholic. I can't throw that out.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, thanks again. This is the episode. Sex Actually. Bye, guys.
Bye.
I'm surprised that I was gonna. I thought it would be good, but it's actually
really good.
You gotta go down.
It's so good. I'm sorry if we didn't get to all the topics you wanted to talk about.
No, of course not.
Then like,
I
we
never
gotta ask you about sex.
This thing's been on and recording, but for some reason I lost the connection on my phone, so that I had a little technical thing. Sorry if I was a
No,
little...
you're fine.
That's actually really good. I'm
Y'all.
let me get this thing going.
Yay!
Okay. Yeah, this thing can... We always forget to take the photos. That's good.
Oh my gosh, I feel like you should could teach a workshop on how
One more, actually.
comics could take photographs.
Let's go
Because I
record all
realize I've got such a weird rubber face.
I
I never know how to.
I always look at the picture instead
Do it
of
to the
looking
side
at
so
the
you don't
camera.
block that thing.
Sorry, I got some cherry in my throat.
She's gonna auto-tune it no matter what, Facetune.
What's that?
Oh, girl. Brighten and tighten and... Okay, that's
Okay.
plenty.
Alright, that's it.
Awesome.
Shut
Thank
this
you
thing
so much.
off.
This is so
Oh, we
good.
still have one bar on this. That's good. What do you record your podcast on?
A Zoom, and then I just use. I don't put it through Levelator. Kyle Clark was
either.
like, put it through Levelator, and then I use.
It makes your file size huge, right?